welcome to my show. A guest here. His name is Stephen Horne. Mr. Steve, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
All right, sir. Firstly, you are a registered herbalist. You are also a certified comprehensive hydrologist.
Iridology, like the
Sorry,
iris of
hydrology.
the eye.
All right, sir. Iridology. Thank you. Can you please, sir, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, sir?
Yeah, I'm primarily a professional clinical herbalist and a past president of the American Herbalist Guild. And I also am involved in just natural healing in general, aromatherapy, flower essences, nutrition. I'm an iridologist, which is the study of the iris of the eye as it relates to um, the health problems we're genetically prone to. And I've been doing this for full time for over 40 years. So I've been involved in this for a long time.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Steve. And have you also, under this about medicine, have you written any book or are you planning to write any book in the coming future, sir?
I've written a number of books. The most popular one is one I've co authored called Modern Herbal Dispensatory, which is a book about making herbal uh, remedies. And then I also have a book called Strategies for Health, which is a general guide to natural healing for over about 500 health problems. And I have some other smaller books which are currently out of print, but I I have courses and educational videos on my YouTube channel and information on my website, uh, stephenhorn.com, where people can learn about natural healing.
All right. Thank you.
I do have other books I'm planning on writing, but none of them are close to being finished, so we don't need to promote all that.
Yeah, I completely agree, Mr. Steven. Thank you so much, Mr. Steven. And I want to dive more in the point of herbal medicine and also the conventional medicine, sir. We all know that herbal medicine, as something we use during our ancestral time. We use it traditionally to heal ourselves, but with the development of the technology and stuff, we've built ourselves different remedies for healing. I would like to ask Mr. Steven, how do you personally think herbal medicine differ from conventional medicine in its approach to healing, sir?
Yeah, there's two main differences here, and one of them is primarily economic, which is that the um, many of the drugs that are in current use in the world came from plants. They were
Mm.
compounds that were originally discovered in plants that people had been using for healing for many years. And the pharmaceutical companies like to find specific chemicals and isolate them because then they can uh, get get the monopoly on that particular compound and have the ability to patent it and sell it for a good price. Uh, Nobody is going to like make get rich discovering the health benefits of garlic or ginger or parsley or anything like that because anybody can get it at the grocery store, right? It's cheap and efficient. So the modern pharmaceutical medicine is focused on isolating specific compounds to try to do specific targeted things in the body. But there's a bigger difference in general because traditional herbalism was never focused on just trying to relieve a particular symptom, like lowering cholesterol or lowering your blood pressure or uh, some other, uh, or even fighting an infection. It was a more holistic way of thinking about the world because a plant is not a simple, like it only does one thing. An herb generally has a a range of things that it's doing in the body that is trying to kind of help bring the body back into balance. So traditional herbalism is more focused on trying to find a way to balance out the health of the individual and more targeted looking at underlying causes of why the person may be ill rather than just trying to relieve a particular symptom. And so those would be the two big differences in the way traditional herbalism views health and the way the modern pharmaceutical medicine views health.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. And in the modern world we have today, there are a lot of stress, anxiety, a lot of a lot of health issues today in the modern time. Even I myself, I used to get very no, I used to get to the point that I will get stressed to the point that I will want to even sleep, and and that sleep will not even come. You understand how tough it is? And I would like to ask Mr. Steve, how do you think, how about remedies address modern health issues such as anxiety, sleep disorder, and even stress?
Yeah, well, that's actually a favorite topic of mine because I think stress is one of the underlying reasons why we get ill. So, being able to help more effectively manage stress is a really important life skill for general health. And one of the things that's also interesting about, like herbal remedies is because they have a more kind of broad acting effect on the body, is in some cases they do things that we don't really have any pharmaceutical remedies that will do. Now, you can have an anti-anxiety medicine, for example, but it there's this group of herbs that were discovered called adaptogens. And adaptogens are remedies that help the body cope better with stress, such as eleuthero, schizandra, rhodiola, ashwagandha, holy basil, and a number of other remedies. And what these remedies do is they help to kind of balance out the body's biochemistry a little better to help the body cope better with things that are causing stress. So when you perceive something as dangerous to you or stressful, you um, it initiates the that fight, flight, or freeze response. Excuse me, I had to clear my throat there. It initiates this fight, flight, or freeze response, which is the same thing that happens when you have something really scares you. But in many cases, it's being initiated because of things that are not physically dangerous, but we perceive as emotionally dangerous, like a letter from the IRS or the threat that we might lose our job or that we can't pay a bill or something like that. And so this triggers the release of cortisol, epinephrine, and other chemical messengers that jack us up in order to be able to deal with a problem, like running away from the bear or fighting off the tiger or so forth. But in modern society, that energy isn't being discharged in physical activity. And so, and if you have multiple things hitting you, one after the other, you have a hard time unwinding from all that. So the some of these remedies go in and they modulate what's known as the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, which means they tell the brain, hey, we've got enough stress hormones. You don't need to keep signaling for more stress hormones. And that kind of reduces your baseline stress level, which enables you to be calmer, more focused, and better able to do things. Like one of the first herbs identified as a adaptogen was eleuthero, and it was a Russian herb, and they did all kinds of experiments giving it to athletes, and it improved their athletic performance. They gave it to secretaries, and it made them make fewer mistakes. And I even learned from Dr. Bruce Halstead, who was a world-renowned medical research scientist, who had was trying to find out how the cosmonauts in Russia weren't getting space sickness and our American astronauts were, that they were using eleuthero with their astronauts, just to help them, better cope with the stress light. So these herbs can, in general, help you calm down. Ashwagandha in holy basil and a couple others are more nourishing adaptogens that are also helpful if you are having trouble sleeping. If you need to have a little more energy, then Shazandra or Eleuthero are better. But you can also just get a formula that contains a number of these herbs and take it to help you calm down. And then there's just the idea of what we call nervines, which are herbs that in general help to calm down that sympathetic part of your nervous system that jacks you up and gets you going, and instead initiate more of that parasympathetic nervous system response that helps you rest and digest and relax. And so you can use things like kava kava to help reduce your anxiety. And there are herbs that help to relax muscle spasms and things simply like, chamomile, lavender, etc., all of which are non-toxic, very safe for people to use um, on a regular basis that you can help just kind of calm you down so you're not quite so stressed as you go through the day.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Mr. Stephen, for the insight. And I also want to go to the point of how it also contributes to a more holistic and environmental friendly system, sir. How do you think, or how can herbal medicine contribute to a more holistic and environmentally friendly healthcare system, sir?
Yeah, well, I want to address the environmentally friendly thing first because there's a problem with a lot of these compounds that are being created as synthetic drugs. Because one of the things that they do is they'll um, take a chemical that's found naturally in the body or naturally in a plant or something, and they modify its structure um, in order to be able to patent it. And often they modify the structure so that it becomes harder for the body to break it down, so the effect lasts long. But one of the problems is that these compounds then will get flushed out of the body and make their way into the water supply. And so we have uh, antidepressants and hormone drugs and everything that are going into our water supply. And because they've been chemically altered, because they're not the kind of compounds that in plants that readily break down in the environment, they don't break down as quickly. And we also have so there's a problem of environmental pollution from pharmaceutical medicine, whereas plants, um, there is a problem with plant medicine if you're harvesting herbs from the wild and you're not ethically and sustainably harvesting them. In that way, herbal medicine can become environmentally not friendly. But herbs that can be cultivated, herbs that are readily available, like there's no shortage of dandelions, there's no shortage of a lot of plants that we would consider weeds that are perfectly good medicines. And so and these things break down in the environment. They don't cause the pollution or the problems of orthodox medicine. So I think that shifting where possible to more of these plant medicines actually is it would be good for the environment as long as they're not rare or endangered plants. The other aspect of this, though, is as I mentioned at the beginning, herbalism because plants have multiple actions. So, for example, let's take chamomile. Chamomile has a calming effect on your nervous system. It helps to promote a parasympathetic nervous system response. It also stimulates your digestive secretions. So it's helpful for um, indigestion from uh, being wound up and stressed and on the go. And it has an effect that it helps to reduce your tendency to be irritable or peevish. So there's a big picture of chamomile that that you can look at a person and you can say, oh, this person's suffering from indigestion. They're highly stressed. They can't unwind, you know, they're easily irritated. Okay, so chamomile works on all of that simultaneously. And I could say the same thing for many herbs that have this very holistic action. Like St. John's wort, for example, is commonly portrayed as a antidepressant herb, but that's a way oversimplification of what St. John's wort does. Um, St. John's wort has antiviral components. It has wound healing components. It's been used to help the nervous system repair itself. Um, it, it's also for mild anxiety. So it's more for a depression that's associated with being anxious all the time and just getting kind of worn out from that. There's a whole bigger picture. And so herbalism practiced correctly teaches you not to look at a particular symptom, but to look at what's going on in the person as a whole and work with the person as a whole. And and medicine tends to do the opposite, which is to just isolate and you treat the thyroid. You know, this person has a thyroid problem, they have high cholesterol, and so forth. You treat those as if they were all individual problems, but they're not just individual problems. They all are occurring in the same person who has the same health habits, who has the same personality, who is, they're all actually interconnected. And studying herbal medicine helps you see those interconnections and select remedies based on the bigger picture of what's going on in the person and not just trying to treat the different symptoms they have in isolation from one another.
Thank you for the great insight, Mr. Steve. And I will also want to lastly ask on the challenges and benefits when it comes to herbal treatment and allopathic medicine, sir. What do you think are the challenges and benefits of combining herbal treatment with the allopathic medicine, sir?
Yeah, well, the ideal here would not be to say, uh, just herbal medicine or just, modern conventional medicine.
Mm.
It really is more of integrating the ideas from both and being able to offer the the person the best from both worlds. I mean, there are clearly things that modern medicine has that traditional medicine doesn't have. I was interviewing a uh, Native American healer who was a descendant of a tribe that had been healers, and she said, um, "Hey, if we, if someone fell and shattered their leg, we couldn't put it back together. Modern medicine can go in and they can do an operation and they can put a metal rod in there and realign those bones and so forth. And if we could have done that, she said, we would have. But we can help the bones to heal. We know the herbs that are going to speed the bones so they heal faster. So the ideal thing here for society would be to get a more cooperative approach or integrative approach to looking at what is best. So for example, a person maybe has a surgery, but there are herbs. Oh, sorry, I don't know why my throat is a little congested this morning.
It's okay.
The the but there are herbs that can help the person heal more quickly. Um, there are, and like I said, there are things like modern medicine has, you know, antibiotics. Like, and antibiotics are amazing, but they're overused because people take antibiotics for viral conditions like colds and flu, and that makes them less effective for when they're really needed because then bacteria build up antibiotic resistance. Well, there's plenty of traditional herbal remedies for colds and flu, and most of the time you're you're going to recover anyway eventually, but you can speed the recovery with herbal remedies like elderberry, which helps inhibit viral replication, or herbs that just stimulate the immune system. That's one of the things herbs can do that we don't have drugs for. Is we have herbs like echinacea and many medicinal mushrooms that actually can go in and upregulate the immune system so it can more effectively fight off an infection by itself rather than trying to kill the infection from the outside. So I, I think there's this need for this discussion and interplay, which is why I've been involved with the American Herbalist Guild and why I was on their board for 4 years and served as president for 4 years, is because I'm really interested in elevating the practice of herbalism to a higher level so we can integrate better with the medical profession. But even then, there's a thing that we've lost in our culture that I think is something that we need to get back. I grew up with a medical doctor, and he complained to my mom once that it, people didn't use home remedies anymore, and and there are so many simple things that herbs can do that they do very well in terms of normal things that you might have at your home, like a sore throat or an earache or a headache or something like that. And they're safer. They're better tolerated by the body. They have fewer side effects, and there seems to be no reason why we shouldn't have a society where people try a few home remedies first, and then if they don't work, they can go to the doctor and find out what's going on at a deeper level. So that's one way we could integrate this better into society. The other way that we could integrate it better into society is that when it comes to chronic and degenerative illness, almost all that modern medicine offers is symptomatic relief. So, for example, if you have arthritis, you know, medical doctors are going to give you pain relievers. But there are actually herbs and some nutritional supplements that can actually help that those joints to heal, can actually help you get over the arthritis. And that's the another big thing that we're missing is that this idea that we can support the body so it can heal from certain conditions that in many cases now doctors consider to be incurable. But I know from personal experience some of these things are not incurable. I've known people who've overcome various autoimmune disorders. My mom had a really severe attack of rheumatoid arthritis. I put her on a better diet, had her take some herbs and some nutritional supplements, and my mom never had problems with rheumatoid arthritis again. And that was just not that, so it wasn't just painkillers.
Mm.
So there is something that we again can contribute in terms of understanding how to help the body heal because we're more focused on creating health rather than treating the symptoms of disease.
Thank you so much, Mr. Steven, on this insightful discussion. Thank you so much, sir. And lastly, Mr. Steve, there is a question I normally ask, sir. From the ancestors, from the forefathers, there are a lot of things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, what do you think that thing would be, sir?
It, basically, I think we have lost touch with nature. I, I one of the first herbalists I studied with had done some extensive work with uh, Central and South people in Central and South America, and he had run into a tradition among the natives there that they had stopped fighting wars or whatever else they were doing to go out and plant the corn and beans in the uh, spring, and then they did the same thing in the fall to go out and harvest them. And there was a belief that if you didn't participate in nature, that you would go insane. And I I think that people, because they don't garden, they don't grow their own food, they don't get out in the natural world, which is the real world. They there's something about the natural world that is full of life lessons, like a garden, for example. If you grow a garden, you're going to encounter trying to grow the vegetables you want, and you're also going to encounter the weeds. And these things serve as metaphors for life, because in your life, there are things you want to accomplish. But if you don't weed out the things that are not serving you, you're not going to be able to accomplish things. And so nature is full of really practical, basic life lessons. And even when I'm teaching people about medicinal plants, um, the plants themselves are struggling to survive in a particular niche in nature. And it's like studying them, you actually gain insights into what I would think of as things of the soul. And I think the disconnect from nature also disconnects us from the divine, because nature was created by the divine. But everything you see in a major metropolitan area, pretty much, except for a few, plants here and there, was created by human beings. And even those plants are very carefully controlled. And so we lose touch, I think, with the divine. And there is a whole disregard we have in our society, this whole, what I would think of, consumer mentality of just that we can consume and consume and consume and consume, not worry about the pollution we're creating, not worrying about the end result of what we're doing. But if you're actually out trying to deal with nature and the problems of nature, you'd soon realize that's an an unsustainable way to live. And so I would encourage people to get out in nature, to grow a garden, to do something that puts you in touch with what I think of as the real world. And I think it anchors your soul. I think it can help you get closer to God. And I think it can help teach you of the value of, you know, the environment and life, so that we are not just obsessed with, you know, money and progress and all this other stuff, which I think in the current way we're doing it is unsustainable.
I completely agree with you, Mr. Steven. And to add on that, every single person today just believe that no matter what they want to get or no matter how they want to get it, they have to just go through the internet, and through the internet. And the best thing is the nature. By sitting down, just having this natural lifestyle could bring a lot of insight, even ideas that could bring tremendous prosperity, peace, happiness in one's life. And that is what we are possibly really, really missing. But getting people to know that nature is very powerful and it could bring every single thing we need. Just have to connect ourselves, most especially with the Creator, which is God, Jesus Christ, who could possibly help us in the way that we think, no matter the person we are personally in contact with, whether it's God or Buddhism or anything like that. I want to also sincerely thank you for the opportunity, for the time. You probably seems really little bit dull. I don't know why, but thank you so much, Mr. Steve.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I totally agree with what you just said. It's good to know that we have a similar uh, worldview there, because I I think, you know our actual needs of what will make us happy are much more simple than most people think, and we're being led to worship what I think of as false gods, fame and money and everything else like that, which
Mm,
don't ultimately bring happiness. What brings happiness is the you know just the connection to nature, the connection to each other,
mm.
love, a connection to God, and I know that's where my happiness comes from. So God bless you.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Bye bye.
Bye.